The smell of baked salmon drifted through the house, warm and steady, the way it always had. I slid the tray out of the oven and set it beside the arugula salad. The dressing was sharp. Vanessa liked it sweet. I didn't adjust it. Let her add honey if she wanted. The clock on the stove blinked. 6:48 p.m. Still time. Darren said the guests would start arriving by 7, so I moved around my kitchen. Tucking away the glass dishes, covering the counters with foil trays and paper plates edged in gold stars. Plastic forks. Disposable cups. Keep it casual, Darren had said. Vanessa's mom hates formal things. I stood there a moment longer than necessary, my hand resting on the ceramic cutlery tray. I'd slid into the bottom drawer. Patrick and I bought that set the year we moved in. He liked real weight in his hands, things that didn't bend. Laughter spilled in from the living room. The first wave had arrived. Coworkers, neighbors, Vanessa's sister and her boyfriend. People I didn't recognize. People who already sounded comfortable. I poured sweet tea into pitchers, opened a bottle of sparkling cider. Darren said he'd handle the champagne. As I stepped into the hallway, I passed the mirror by the coat rack and adjusted the collar of my blouse. My reflection looked older this year. Not just the lines, but the eyes. They looked tired, watchful. At 7:13 p.m., I was crossing the dining room with a tray of crostini when I heard Vanessa's voice from the far end of the table. This place will look so much better once it's ours. It was said lightly, almost playful. No one laughed. My fingers tightened around the tray. Steam curled up from the bread, and suddenly the smell of salmon made my stomach turn. I set the tray down too hard. One piece flipped onto the floor. No one noticed. I walked back to the kitchen slowly, turned on the sink, and let the water run too hot. I leaned over the counter, palms pressed to the tile. Outside, fireworks cracked in the distance. I didn't turn toward the sound. I kept my eyes on the floor, listening, waiting for something I couldn't name yet, only knowing that it had already started. By morning, they wouldn't bother hiding it at all. The next morning, I found the boxes. They were stacked waist-high in the guest room, neatly taped, each one labeled in Darren's handwriting. A thick black line crossed out their old address. Beneath it, my street name was written in red marker. I stood in the doorway without stepping inside. The carpet had fresh vacuum lines. The windowsill had been wiped down. Someone had been careful. Darren came up behind me carrying a folded bath towel and a power strip. Just getting organized, he said, breezing past me. Vanessa wants to go minimal this year. Clean start. Less clutter. He nudged one of the boxes with his foot. We'll move these to the attic once we sort them. I didn't answer. I was still staring at the handwriting, the way it slanted downward, fast and casual, like filling out a shipping label you never expect to see again. The mail came that afternoon. A plain envelope. No return address. Inside was a lease termination notice. From the apartment Darren and Vanessa had rented for the last 3 years. Effective January 3rd. I called the number at the bottom. The receptionist sounded cheerful. She confirmed everything. They told us they're relocating to live with family, she said. It's always so nice when families come together. I hung up without responding. Later, I walked into the living room and froze. Patrick's chair was gone. The orange armchair he used every evening, the one that still held the shape of him, had vanished. In its place, nothing. Just a faint dent in the carpet, and his slippers tucked beneath the side table, like they were waiting for him to come back. Darren walked in holding 2 champagne flutes. I moved it to the garage, he said easily. Thought we could set up a kids' area in here soon. He didn't finish the sentence. I turned to him, keeping my voice steady. Who asked you to do that? He smiled like the question hadn't landed. Want me to bring it back for tonight? No. I went into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and gripped the milk carton. Cold plastic. My fingers ached from holding it too tight. I didn't put the chair back. I didn't touch the boxes. But that night, I pulled out my calendar and circled January 2nd. Then I underlined it. Twice. That was the day I realized they weren't moving in, they were moving me out. The pill sorter clicked shut in my hands. 7 days. 7 small compartments. Blood pressure pills. Turmeric capsules. One tiny zinc tablet I didn't believe in, but took anyway. I slid the box into the top drawer of my desk, beside unpaid bills, and old letters written in my husband's handwriting. The cabinet squeaked when I opened it. Vanessa was already there, half crouched, one hand buried in a manila folder. Her smile came too fast. "Oh, I was just looking for Darren," she said. "He thought the tax forms might be here." She stepped back quickly and bumped the desk. A page floated to the floor. I stooped slowly, let her sweat. It was a photocopy of my husband's VA pension letter. I didn't hand it back. "That drawer's private," I said. She smoothed her shirt, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Of course," she said. "I wasn't snooping, just trying to help. You know, organizing early for tax season." I said nothing. She backed away, leaving the drawer open behind her. That evening, Darren joined me in the kitchen. While I peeled carrots, he leaned against the counter, sipping from a glass with one of those gold plastic rims Vanessa had bought for the party. "You're still leaving everything to me, right?" he asked casually. "Just so it's simple." He snapped a carrot in half. "Vanessa says it's better to avoid probate. Keeps things easy for everyone." The knife paused in my hand. I didn't answer. The next morning, I drove to Grace Novak's office. 18 years. Same lawyer. Same oak desk. She pulled up my file and frowned. "This isn't the version we have on record anymore." She printed the most recent will, dated December 4th. I hadn't been in that office in 6 months. Vanessa's name had been added. Healthcare proxy. Emergency authority. Partial co-beneficiary. Grace lowered her voice. "This looks cut and pasted," she said. "And it wasn't signed in front of me." I asked her to destroy it. We notarized a fresh will. No proxies. No co-anything. I drove home with both documents, locked in the glove box. That night I didn't sleep. Not because I was afraid, but because I finally understood what they were doing. And once you understand that, you can plan. They thought I was confused. What they didn't know was that I'd just woken up. I started saying yes. Yes to Vanessa reorganizing the pantry. Yes to Darren handling the mail. Yes to letting them take care of things. When neighbors asked questions, I watched everything. Vanessa replaced my ceramic plates with matching white ones that chipped if you tapped them too hard. She moved my spices into labeled glass jars and threw away the ones without expiration dates. "These are bad for your stomach," she said. Like she checked. Darren installed a lock on the garage door. New keypad. New code. He didn't give it to me. "It's just safer," he said. "Too many break-ins lately." I nodded. I began eating later than usual. Alone. After they'd finished and left the table messy, like children who knew someone else would clean up. Vanessa stopped asking before inviting people over. A couple from their church. A coworker of Darren's. Once a real estate agent. She stood in my doorway that afternoon, with her arms folded. "Just someone to look at the layout," she said. Purely hypothetical. The man walked through my house, like it was already his. I followed them slowly, touching the door frames as I passed, the way you do when you're memorizing something. That night I removed my name from the joint grocery account. The next day, I transferred my savings. Not all at once. Small amounts. Quiet amounts. Enough that no one noticed. I began sorting my things. Not to leave. To choose. Photographs went into one box. Jewelry into another. Legal papers into a third. I hid that one behind the false panel. In the linen closet. Vanessa never found it. She was too busy planning. One morning Darren knocked on my bedroom door and didn't wait for an answer. "We've been talking," he said, sitting on the edge of the bed, "about what's best for you long term." He rested a hand on my blanket. "Assisted living might give you peace, structure, independence without pressure." I looked at his hand, then at his face. "I'll think about it," I said. He smiled with relief. That was the moment. I knew my silence was working. They mistook it for weakness. They had no idea. I was already 2 steps ahead. They thought I was preparing to move out. In reality, I was preparing to decide who would. It happened on a Tuesday. Rain tapping the windows. The kind that makes the house feel smaller. Closer. Like it's listening. Vanessa laid the papers on the dining table. As if she were setting down placemats. Neat stack. Color-coded tabs. A pen already uncapped. We just want to make things official, she said, smiling. So there's no stress later. Darren stood behind her. Not beside me. That told me everything. These are medical directives, she continued. Power of attorney. Temporary guardianship, really. Just in case. I sat down slowly. Picked up the top page. My name was already printed. My signature line highlighted in yellow. You won't even notice a difference, Darren said quickly. It's just paperwork. Paperwork. Like my life was a filing cabinet. And if I don't sign? I asked. Vanessa's smile thinned. Well, she said. Then we'll have to make some decisions without your input. Doctors prefer clarity. I looked at the pen. Darren couldn't speak. The social worker asked gently, Mrs. May, have you been pressured to sign documents? Or prevented from accessing your home? I handed over the folder. Every receipt. Every message. Every recording. Even the one from the night. The lights went out. The officer nodded slowly. The lawyer didn't look surprised. By sunset they were packing. Not angrily. Not loudly. Carefully. Like people who finally understood. They had miscalculated. Vanessa avoided my eyes. Darren stopped in the doorway. I didn't think you'd do this, he said. I met his gaze. I raised you to be careful, I said. You should have listened. The door closed. I sat alone in my house. Not lonely. Free. That night I sent one message. This story is finished. And for the first time in years, I slept deeply. If you think silence means weakness, you've never met a woman who's done explaining. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life stories that inspire and remind us what matters most. Click a video to continue the journey.